The Galactic Council's xenobiologist, Dr. Threnzik, adjusted his datapad with 3 of his 6 limbs, mandibles clicking in consternation. Before him sat Elin Mara, the human engineer who had somehow become the center of an interstellar medical mystery. "Miss Mara," Threnzik began, his translator rendering his frustration in flat, mechanical tones. "You do understand that this is unprecedented? Sicko should have reached full Velcon maturity 2 standard years ago." Ellen glanced down at the small, fur-covered creature sitting at her feet. Sicko's large, luminescent eyes blinked up at her, and the cub's tail, striped in shades of cobalt and silver, wrapped possessively around her ankle. "I'm aware," Ellen said simply. "Then you must also be aware," Threnzik continued, leaning forward, "that Velcon cubs undergo their final metamorphosis at precisely 5 years of age. It is biological law. They shed their juvenile pelts, their neural structures reorganize, and they join Velcon society as independent adults. Sicko is 7 years old, Miss Mara, and still exhibits juvenile behavior patterns, complete dependency, and," he gestured at the creature, "an apparently unbreakable fixation on you." Sicko chirped softly and pressed closer to Elin's leg. Ellen scratched behind Sicko's tufted ears, earning a purr-like rumble. "Have you considered that maybe your biological law isn't as absolute as you thought?" Threnzik's mandibles clattered. "Impossible. We have documented over 14,000 Velcon maturation cycles. Every single one follows the same pattern. Until Sicko." The story had begun 5 years earlier, when Elin Mara arrived at the outpost Kepler 442, a multicultural research station orbiting a distant world. She was assigned to repair the station's aging fusion cores, a job that required crawling through access tunnels most species found claustrophobic. She'd found Sicko in one of those tunnels. The cub had been no larger than a human's fist, mewling pitifully, separated from its Velcon parent during a station emergency. Ellen had tucked the tiny creature into her jacket and spent the next 3 days searching for its family. By the time she located Sicko's parent, the damage was done. The cub had imprinted not on its own kind, but on the human who'd kept it warm, fed it from a makeshift bottle, and whispered reassurances in a language Sicko couldn't possibly understand. The Velcon parent, a dignified ambassador named Corvus, had been gracious but firm. "Take the cub," Corvus had said. "In our culture, the bond of rescue supersedes biology. Sicko has chosen you." Ellen had tried to refuse. She was a drifter, a fixer of broken machines, not a parent. But when she looked into Sicko's wide, trusting eyes, she'd found herself nodding, and so began their unlikely partnership. For the first 2 years, everything proceeded normally. Sicko grew, learned, and exhibited all the expected developmental milestones. The cub learned to manipulate tools with surprising dexterity, developed rudimentary language skills, and shadowed Ellen through every repair job, every station transfer, every late-night meal in cramped ship galleys. Then came Sicko's 5th birthday. The Velcon community on Kepler 442 had prepared for the ceremony, the ancient ritual where cubs shed their juvenile forms and emerged as adults. They'd decorated a ceremonial chamber with bioluminescent flowers. They'd gathered witnesses. They'd even contacted Sicko's birth parent, Corvus, who traveled across 3 star systems to attend. Sicko had refused to enter the chamber. Instead, the cub had clung to Elin's leg, chirping in distress, small claws digging into the fabric of her work coveralls. No amount of coaxing, traditional Velcon songs, or even pheromone-based encouragement could separate them. The ceremony ended in failure. "Perhaps next month," Corvus had said diplomatically, but next month came, and the next, and the one after that. Sicko remained stubbornly, impossibly juvenile. The Velcon community grew concerned, then alarmed, then outright panicked. They called in specialists. They consulted ancient texts. They even petitioned the Galactic Council for intervention, which was how Ellen ended up in Dr. Threnzik's office, 2 years later, with a 7-year-old cub still glued to her side. "We believe," Threnzik said carefully, "that human interaction may be interfering with Sicko's natural development. Your species emits unique pheromones. Your body temperature is abnormally high, and your social bonding patterns are intense. Perhaps if you were to distance yourself— No, Ellen interrupted. Threnzic's eye stalks swiveled. You must understand. I said no. Elend's voice was quiet but carried the weight of tungsten. You want me to abandon Sicko because your theories don't match reality. That's not happening. But the cub's future is Sicko's choice. Ellen stood, and Sicko immediately hopped onto her shoulder, tail coiling around her neck like a living scarf. You said it yourself. This is unprecedented. Maybe that means it's time to rethink your assumptions. She turned to leave, but Threnzic's voice stopped her. What if Sicko never matures? What if this dependency lasts forever? Elend looked back, and for the first time, she smiled. Then I guess we'll figure it out together. That's what humans do. We adapt. As she walked down the sterile corridor, Sicko chittered happily in her ear, tiny paws kneading her shoulder. Behind them, Thrensic watched, datapad forgotten in his grasp. Perhaps, he thought, the mystery wasn't why Sicko refused to mature. Perhaps the mystery was why humans possess this strange ability, this inexplicable talent for making other species want to stay. In the end, Elend Mara returned to her ship. Sicko perched on her shoulder as always. They had a fusion core to repair on the other side of the galaxy, and somewhere out there, the universe awaited two unlikely companions who'd rewritten the rules simply by refusing to let go. The Velcon eventually stopped trying to explain it. Some phenomena, they concluded, existed beyond the reach of biology or logic. Some bonds were stronger than metamorphosis, and in the cargo hold of a battered human transport ship, a 7-year-old cub curled up beside an engineer and dreamed of stars, perfectly content to remain exactly what it was. Sicko, companion to Elend Mara, the human who'd taught an entire species that growing up was optional when love was involved.